my real test. To train them is my cause.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen. This is Pokémon Live, and this is a live recording from the year 2000 from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Pokémon Live is a largely forgotten touring musical that's a really bizarre relic for Pokémon fans.
I was born to rule the world, and I almost achieved that goal.
A lot of the music in the musical itself came from the show and the show's soundtrack, but it has a completely original story that involves Giovanni and a new Pokemon called Mecha Mewtwo, and some really bizarre, surprising revelations about Ash's relationship with his mom.
I really want us to do things together the way we used to. I missed that.
Mom, I'm not a baby anymore. I'm a Pokemon trainer, and I gotta be ready in case I run into Team Rocket.
I preferred if you stayed clear of Team Rocket.
Oh, Ma, you don't know anything about it.
Come on, yeah, yeah, come on.
So how did this strange and somewhat obnoxious collaboration between Nintendo, 4Kids Entertainment, and Radio City Entertainment happen? We get to the bottom of it on this special edition of the Game Informer Show by talking to the man who actually wrote the musical, Michael Slade.
What kind of Pokemon are you? Looks to me like we're about to have some work to do. Let's go!
Michael Slade, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Glad to be here.
So, you wrote the Pokemon musical back in the year 2000.
Yeah.
How often does this come up in your life?
Well, you know, it's great at cocktail parties. Or if I'm talking to 3-year-olds.
So before we get into the production of this thing, do you want to talk a little bit about your background in theater and how you arrived up to the point of writing the Pokemon musical?
Sure. I'm a playwright. I'd written the books to a lot of family theater musicals. And one day I was actually living in LA at the time, and I got a phone call, a very mysterious phone call from people at Radio City Music Hall saying that I'd been recommended to them for a project and they couldn't tell me what the project was. They wanted to talk to me about time commitment and availability and would I be open to the possibility of a project that they couldn't tell me what it was. And I said, well, in the totally abstract, sure.
Just so in your mind, you're like, this is Cats 2. This is going to be something huge.
And then they called me a few days later and said, okay, we can tell you, but you're sworn to secrecy what the project is. And it would be a musical about Pokemon. And what do you know about this? And doing my best, I want to get this gig thing. I said, I know all about Pokemon. Pikachu, of course. And the fact of the matter was, other than that word, that was the extent of my Pokemon knowledge at that point. Other than the vague knowledge that there was this series and that there was a movie that was out or that had come out, I guess. They said, but in the meantime, we want to send you the. This is 2000, so it was the VCR,
the VHS tapes
of the first Pokemon movie, and I said, that would be great because it'll give me some context.
Yeah, your copy was worn out. I understand.
My copy, I had actually lent it to a 3-year-old. They send me this tape, and now I know you were a great fan of Pokemon.
I do love Pokemon,
and I'm guessing you started watching at a very young age, right?
Yeah. I guess maybe like 11 or so, yeah.
Okay, because, I'm now an adult being sent this tape. And I watched it. And then I watched it again. And I said, I don't know what drugs these people are on. But clearly you really need to be on those drugs to really get what this is.
So then you went to your local drug dealer.
So then I went to my local drug dealer on the corner and watched it a third time, and then I totally got it.
And then you wrote the Pokemon musical.
As I remember, my agent worked out something that I in addition to them bringing me to New York and all, there was some sort of fee that for me to be a party to this meeting. And it was at a conference room in Radio City. very impressive. And there were the people from Radio City. There were the people from 4Kids. There was Louis Perez, who became the director choreographer. There was the costume designer and puppet designer. There was a set designer, lighting designer. I think the composer, lyricists from 4Kids who did all the Pokemon stuff were at this first meeting. It was end of April, beginning of May. And they said, well, and we're scheduled to open at Radio City, I think it was the third week of September, which now when you're creating a big show, you usually have years. And we were talking about months, and we're sort of sitting there and they're talking, and they said, well, okay, we need to back up a little. So if we're going to open that week, we want to do a week tryout somewhere. So back up a week from that. And then, Louis, if you're the director choreographer and you're doing this, how long would you need to tech the show, which is the rehearsals where after you've really rehearsed the show, but then you're putting all the technical stuff together and costumes and effects and everything. And he said, well, probably 10 days to 2 weeks. And they said, okay, so we'll back that up another, few weeks. And then they're turning to the design team and saying, well, now, when would the designs have to be to the various shops to be built in time, for them to bid on it, to then build them in time to start rehearsals? And, we got those dates. And we're sort of backing up so that we're sort of at like a week and a half from the day we're sitting there, when I sort of tentatively raised my hand and said, well, seeing as how none of this can happen until there's a script, at least a first draft of a script, when is it you're like looking to have my job done by? And the guy said, well, if you could have a rough draft of Act 1 by a week from today, that would be really great. And a rough draft of Act 2 by the next week, that would be perfect. Is that a problem? And I said, well, it's not really a problem for me, but I don't think you're going to have a deal with my agent in a week. And a given here was that the 4Kids people had a basic plot idea of what they wanted the story to be.
The big beats.
We weren't starting exactly from zero. We had they had an idea of a plot that, my understanding, had been approved up the various corporate ladders of all of the different corporations that have a say about all things Pokemon.
And so Nintendo and the Pokemon Company and all of those.
Yeah, all of that.
Officer Denny, oh, can't you see? You can lock me up and throw away the key. Oh, Denny, if loving you's a crime, then sentence me now and I'll do my time. My uniform duty's simply the best. He's got my heart under house arrest. But before that cop names me her boy, I'm head over heels. I'm head over heels for a nurse named Joy.
I forget what we were budgeted at. I think it was $3 or $4 million, a considerable, budget for this. And the set designers talking about the things they can do with sets, which were amazing. And I said, but I know a lot about sets, and I have friends who are stagehands and what all this touring a show costs. And it seems to me that even at this budget, the stuff you're talking about, we're not going to be able to do physically. And no, don't worry about it. We can. I said, okay, but here's the deal. There's not time for me to write this twice. There's time for me to write it once, maybe. But we kind of need to know, that we're not writing to effects and set possibilities and things that we're then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 or 6 weeks from now going to find out, oh, you know what, we really can't afford, and now we've got to rethink. Louis and I in some meetings talked, and said, they can't do what they're talking about. Let's us think what we know what they can do, just so that we're not the ones winding up screwed.
What were they pitching? What stood out to you at the time? Do you remember any specifics?
Oh, there were going to be 3 like conveyor belt treadmills for cast members to be moved, just that would be on the stage. There were going to be traps, which are, things that go, doors below the stage that people can come up from. And all of this is very doable. And if they were just going to play at Radio City, would be one expense. If you're going to travel with all that kind of stuff, then you're having to build that whole flooring at every stop you're taking, which means you've got to be traveling all of that. And that, that's probably another semi truck. I think they were wanting to keep it to 5 trucks. I remember we wound up with 11, but it was.
There's a lot of Pokemon. You got to fit them in the back there.
You got to fit it. They're big.
You and me and Pokemon. One world. Now and forever. Best friends. Loyal and true. One dream. Side to side. There's nothing we can't do.
Clap your hands, come on.
One hand.
That's right.
Helping the other. Each heart. Beating this one. You and me and Pokemon. One world.
So then over the next, months, it entailed a lot of them flying me back to New York for meetings and us sitting and having these really surreal conversations. It had already been decided that the person who created the puppets and stuff, who had worked with Julie Taymor, she had worked on, I believe, on Lion King with Julie. We kept getting charged with, we want this to be like Lion King. We don't want Barney live. But so here we are. Okay, we're sitting in this meeting, and she's doing her presentations of things. Louis already had some preliminary auditions for little people, because the decision was Pikachu, Meow. I think those are the only two. We're going to be played by little people in costumes. And then some were different kinds of puppet things, and which was going to be which. And she was this amazing presentation that she was in the midst of. And all of a sudden, this woman, I'm guessing from Nintendo, said, wait. Pikachu's going to be a little person. Well, how tall is that little person? And we said, well, we haven't set which person it is, but Pikachu's going to stand about 30, I forget, it was like 36 inches tall, something like that. And this woman just blanched and was like, well, that can't be. Well, why not? And, well, because Pikachu is only 18 inches tall. And this surreal discussion, argument continued or ensued and escalated about how, well, the shortest little person we have met is 33 inches tall, and the head of Pikachu is going to go up about 3 inches taller than the top of their head, so 36 is as small as we get. And this woman was saying, but that's impossible. It's 18 inches, 19 inches, but no bigger than that. And I remember Louis saying, well, if you would like to spend $1 million on Pikachu alone, we can do that Disney audio animatronics thing, and we can have a robotic Pikachu who's whatever size you want, but I don't think you've got the money for that in a budget. And it's going back and forth. And finally I said, I for some reason in that moment, I became the arbiter of sanity. And I said, first of all, 18 inches is really, really small. And the smallest theater this is going to play is Radio City Music Hall, which is like 5,000 or 6,000 seats. It's going to be playing arenas. 18 inches isn't going to be seen. And I said, and then on top of that, we're not casting real little kids as the kids. We're going to be casting, 20-year-olds. So they're bigger than little kids. So the perspective is actually going to be the same.
Smart.
And there's this long pause, and this woman finally says, well, okay, but you have to cast the tallest kids you can possibly cast. Okay, we will. That will be the prime casting issue here. Is are they? Forget if they can sing, dance, act. But as long as they're tall, that's who we'll go with.
Otherwise, those kids would walk out of that theater and be like, "This Pikachu."
They're going to storm. Yeah. They're going to be sitting there in intermission, going, "Wait a minute, that Pikachu's too big. I know Pikachu.
There's no truth in this art." Yeah.
Pikachu, you know that you're the one, so I choose you. There's no one else I'd rather have you by my side. You can help me win this fight. To face the challenge that's ahead.
So how involved was Nintendo?
Pikachu?
All sorts of people were involved. I know that all sorts of people approved script. Norman, and I'm going to blank on Norman's name from 4 Kids.
This is Norman J. Grossfeld he's talking about.
Who's this whole project was his sort of, I think it was his baby. He was the one who's credited with the story, creating the story of it. I would get notes via him about what all these other people said. I do know there was, I'm jumping around a little here, but there was another really surreal moment. We teched the show in an arena in Trenton and then all moved up to Albany, New York, to an arena to the Pepsi Arena. I don't know if it's still a Pepsi Arena, but where it was going to do a week of tryout performances. Now, what was actually the most interesting thing about tryout performances in Albany is apparently Albany was the only market of its size or larger that did not air Pokemon on television.
So everybody had the same reaction you did when you first watched it?
There was no built-in audience. Apparently contractually, and I'm any of this stuff that I'm saying, it's memory and how I remember it, and I'm pretty sure this is all true. Contractually, there is a Japanese woman who does the voice of Pikachu, and as you know, Pikachu's voice is limited to the words Pikachu, Pika, and Chu.
Right.
But contractually, anytime anything is done with Pikachu, this woman is the one who must record the voices. She apparently also has or had some contractual approval of what and where in a script Pikachu said.
Pikachu!
Yeah!
And literally a few hours before the first performance in Albany, somebody returned from Japan having brought her a translation of the script to approve what Pikachu says and to record all of the Pikachu voice things.
Did you see the commercial for that new Pokemon badge?
The diamond badge, I sure did. It's on every channel, even PBS.
See?
Whoa, that badge is awesome. I gotta be the one to win it.
Pika.
Whoa, I've already downloaded my map. I'm out of here.
Pikachu!
Sorry, you didn't see you under there. Come on, Pikachu. We got a badge to win.
So I'm still trying to figure out the communication, but in general, it seemed like Nintendo or the Pokemon Company would talk to this Norman guy at 4 Kids, and then they would talk to you.
Yeah, and 4 Kids really, they seem to have a goodly amount of autonomy regarding anything Pokemon here. Once the Nintendo and the international people signed off on, yes, the script is fine. We're fine with the script. We're fine with the designs. Then they kind of seemed, as far as I could tell, to have fulfilled what they needed to do in terms of input.
It's pretty crazy. Like watching it as a Pokemon fan. I mean, you guys, you do a fair amount. Like the big billing was, we reveal a new Pokemon, Mecha Mewtwo, and like. That is a big deal to essentially create a non-canonical new Pokemon.
Yeah. And that came from the Pokemon people.
I choose Mecha Mewtwo. I created it all by myself. Mecha Mewtwo has the power to learn and then amplify the attacks of any Pokemon in battle.
Alakazam!
Arrivederci.
There was also a new medal.
Oh, the diamond badge, perhaps, Michael?
Diamond badge. The diamond badge. I mean, they knew they were going to be doing it, but this was how they were. This was the rollout of it, I guess.
Delia? Oh, good to see you again. You look lovely.
Leave her alone!
You and me back together. Imagine that.
You don't need to remember specifics on this, but something that was really interesting and bizarre, and I think people reference, if you're a Pokemon fan and you've seen this Pokemon musical on YouTube or whatever, is there is a strange storyline where Giovanni, the head of the evil Team Rocket, he dated Ash's mom in the past.
He dated, and as I believe, was Ash's biological father in a very Star Warsian.
That's a good question, because Ash's father, it's a big thing in the games, in the show. He's never revealed. He's never really talked about it. In the music,
I believe what we did was suggest he could be his father. We never actually said it.
And so 4Kids got a thumbs up to suggest that Giovanni.
Yeah.
Was that exciting for you to think like, oh, Star Wars, I'm excited to write this thing now?
Oh yeah, no, it was suddenly like, oh yeah, we can go. Look, that's cool.
I wasn't always the upstanding woman, you know. As a teenager, I fell in with a bad crowd, and there was just one boy. He started a gang that eventually became Team Rocket.
The boy was Giovanni?
Well, I didn't stay with him long. When I met Ash's father, I put all that behind me.
Does Ash know?
No, and he mustn't.
I don't know which one of us that the spark of that idea came from. It came in a meeting where it was, what if, and then they needed to get approval, could we do that? But I think that's why it kept to that it was never officially said, but it was implied.
So they're okay with that. Even that's pretty lenient from Nintendo and Pokemon Company.
Which was really intense. And it was that he had been it was before he became evil, Giovanni. It was,
naturally. Evil guys
it was
don't have
before
girlfriends.
He went to the dark side.
A long time ago, before you were born, before I met your father, I was friends with Giovanni when he was starting Team Rocket.
What? No way!
Well, it wasn't for long. When I met your father, I left.
Why are you telling me this?
Because I wanted you to hear it from me and not from Giovanni.
Let's get out of here.
Ash.
But it's a weird storyline, and I wonder if it was exciting to you just to think that like
it was very, and quite, in all honesty, I mean, Giovanni was the most, for me, was the most interesting character.
He had the coolest song.
I mean, just because the other ones are kids, I mean, there's a limit to how complicated they can be.
Even
Giovanni, there was room to be complicated.
You are my finest creation, my mechanical Pokemon. At this rate, by the end of tomorrow, we'll have acquired every type of Pokemon attack on Earth. And then the world will be mine.
But I know what happened to you, Mom. It doesn't matter who you were way back then. You're my mom, and I love you.
And you're my young man.
But yeah, just to have the storyline of this musical for kids kind of being about a 10-year-old kid dealing with the concept of a mom's previous boyfriend.
Yes, who is Donald Trump,
Perfect. Yeah, I think he has a couple Persians on his own.
You're way out of your league, you've more than met your match.
Guess you're slowing down, old man can't hit what you can't catch.
Soon the whole world will know the genius of my plan.
I will find a way to stop you any way I can.
You're such a goody two-shoes, it's more fun being bad.
No one's gonna side with you, you'll start raving mad.
Oh yeah, just ask your mother.
That's all in the past.
Listen to me, little boy. Guys, finish last.
The boy will not be harmed.
Who said that?
I did.
You too.
You too.
Are you proud of the script when you're writing it? Do you feel it, or is it just a paycheck, or what's going through your mind?
No, I was very. I mean, actually, with anything, nothing I do I really treat as a paycheck. I mean, if I can't get excited about it, I don't take the project, because the time frame was so telescoped down so much from what you would normally do, there was a built-in energy and excitement of, oh my God, this is, not only am I doing this, it's happening. And as I'm writing, we're seeing costume sketches and we're auditioning and we're, and it was really cool. And we really wound up with, incredible cast.
The best cast of people over 8 feet that you could possibly imagine.
Exactly. But people this was their first gig, and Andrew Nels, who, was nominated for a Tony for Book of Mormon and on Girls, he was James.
Everybody wants to be Ash.
Dominic Nolfi, who one of the stars of Jersey Boys.
That diamond badge is so totally awesome.
Abby, I'm blank on Abby's last name, who was one of our dancers, who is the assistant choreographer on Waitress, the musical on Broadway now. I mean, it's like there was a bunch of them. I mean,
I think Pikachu was in Hamilton, I think.
Yeah. Well, Pikachu, they've interpolated. I don't know if you've seen Hamilton, but he time travels.
Prepare for trouble.
Make it double.
To protect the world from devastation.
To unite all peoples within our nation.
To denounce the evils of truth and love.
To extend our reach to the stars above.
Jesse.
James.
Team Rocket blast off at the speed of light.
Surrender now or prepare to fight.
Meow, that's right.
Hello, Milwaukee!
You want to talk about what it was like to write for Jesse and James? You remember that dynamic much? What was it like to work with the actors?
The actors were great. I mean, they're such fun characters, and, they're so out there.
We're the Hindenburgs of crime.
We crash and burn each and every time.
Masters of disaster.
No one's closer faster.
At failure we shine.
More to the point was, with characters like that is making sure you don't let them take over the script, because they're so much fun that you have to remember, use them as much as you can without making it the Jesse and James show as opposed to the Ash show.
Talking trouble, walking trouble, double trouble, big trouble's gonna follow you. Captured Pikachu. Team Rocket's rockin'.
There's one specific joke that stood out to me watching where it's like, wow, I don't know if this is improvised or how this works, but there's a moment where James is talking about Giovanni's leadership.
Well, yeah, but where does he stand on campaign finance reform, Social Security, and don't ask, don't tell?
Do you remember this joke?
I kind of do. Yeah.
I can't imagine Nintendo being like, thumbs up, cool jokes.
We were dropping little things. I saw it in New York. I didn't see it again. So
gotcha.
I'm sure things grew. There was a Pokemon created for the show that wound up being cut from the show, and I'm going to forget the name of Pokemon. You may know this because, again, you're much more of an expert than I.
This is very important.
But his power was bubbles.
Okay, a lot of them have bubble power.
So a lot of them have a lot. And he was big, and he was really, really big. The thing arrived at Trenton when we were teching, and when we were teching, a lot of these things were sort of every day some more would arrive, and there was this big climactic battle, and this one was the one that was supposed to be the climax of the battle, the last one he battled, the biggest, most coolest, most amazing effect that we're going to have on this thing. But it was huge. It was like 20 feet tall. It was, well, not 20, but probably 15 feet tall.
Okay.
And it was operated by, I think, 2 people inside of it, one who was steering it around and one who was working the bubble mechanism thing. And it was supposed to be this huge battle between Ash and this bubble thing. And we get it on stage, and those toys that blow the little bubbles that
sure.
they're teeny,
yeah.
Well, this 15-foot mega thing, his mouth opens, and that's what comes out of it.
It's just your Spinal Tap moment. Okay.
It's like, yeah. I mean, it's like, well, Louis and I looked at each other and went, well, this is a problem. This can't be the climax of this battle. Let's look at everything we have, and then we sort of reorganize the battle to what is our best effect. Opening night at Radio City, they had it out in the lobby, blowing bubbles, and kids could have their picture taken with it, which served a much better purpose ultimately for it than.
Rhymer and Hitmon Lee. Hey! Oh, it's you! That's right! Golduck!
Auto Trio!
Kinda lame.
I mean, you talk about the battles. That's something that was interesting to me is just like a lot of the kids going, I'm sure, on the car ride over were thinking like, oh my God, how are they going to represent Charizard? How are they going to represent all these gigantic things? What's it going to be like? And it seems like there's the battle sequence.
Venusaur Poison Powder! Ha-ha!
And then there's, I think it's during like a musical number early on where it's just like, hey, here's a parade of all these puppets.
Oh, yes.
And it's just like, you guys just shot your wad right in the beginning, and then the rest, like, it's pretty dry from Pokemon.
Yeah. I mean,
do you want to talk about that structure a little bit?
well, it became important to everybody that all these things get introduced up front. And, no comment as to whether I agreed. But that was important to everybody. And then budget limitations come in. And when it started becoming clear, there was a limit to how cool the effects could get, and a significant limit to it. It became more of, let's just focus the story on the human element of it. Because we can do really well. This, there's just limits as to what we can do. And rather than do it badly, let's pick and choose what we can, let's pick and choose and do what we can do as well as we can do it.
Come on, buddy. Give it everything you got. Pikachu, Thunder Attack, now!
Pikachu!
That's what you do! Learn!
Come on, buddy.
Are there any other specific memories or stories that stand out to you about that whole experience?
Opening was really cool. I mean, it's Radio City Music Hall, and it's full. Suddenly, they were selling all this merchandise. That they weren't selling at the tryout city, and big on the merchandise were these. Well, they were sort of basically a version of the Star Wars lightsabers lit up, and they had like a flashlight at the end of them. And there was a number in the show that was done in black light, and the magic of it worked because it's black light. And if you shine a flashlight on it, then suddenly the magic is over because you see the people in black that are moving things. We immediately thought of that number as we're watching thousands of giant flashlights circling the theater. And we went over to one of the Radio City producers and said, this is a problem. These light things. He went, isn't it amazing? You know how many these are selling? Do you know how much money we're making off of every one we sell? And we just looked at each other and went, oh, okay. We just got what this is all about.
So the Pokemon musical was all about making money off flashlights? Is that what you're telling me?
It was on whatever you could.
Jesus.
On, pay, whatever it is to take your picture with the bubble thing. It was. So
did all the kids shine the flashlights and ruin the blacklight thing?
They were shining them through the whole show. Yeah, it was just, and you got 3-year-olds with a flashlight, so you're.
Hey, I choose Jigglypuff!
No! No! Jigglypuff sleep song!
Anyone who hears it falls asleep.
But he can't hear it. They are perfectly matched.
Don't fall asleep! It'll draw on your face!
Did you ever get any feedback from Nintendo specifically, or even the Pokemon Company, I guess, after the show went live?
I know that it did not do as well financially as everybody had hoped it would. I mean, I never saw the books, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it was a failure. I'm guessing that it probably broke even, or if it didn't fully break even, then it served as a bit of a loss leader in terms of the brand.
So I don't know if you've been paying attention at all, but recently there's news that there is a Hollywood studio bidding war for the rights of to a live action Pokemon movie. And I'm curious if you have any advice to any potential future writers of a Pokemon film.
Well, right off the bat, they're going to have a budget we didn't have, and they're going to be doing it on film, which makes much more sense. Do I have advice for them? Good luck.
But not so much. It wouldn't be a smart move to bring it back to the stage.
Well, if somebody were to approach me about it, I would say, let's rethink it and let's talk about budget. Also today, again, technology has changed in the theater as well as everywhere else. And you can do things today that you couldn't do back then.
Pikachu turn off the dark? I think that'd be a good angle for the whole thing.
You could be less reliant on low tech.
Right. You'd have a bigger bubble maker. Yeah, the whole
You'd
thing.
have a bigger bubble maker. You could.
Cool. Anything else?
Also, the other thing would be, quite frankly, had we had more than 4.5 months from let's all get together for a first meeting to its opening, then it would have probably been an entirely different project also. Had we had a real honest amount of time to develop it and to think it through and not just have to go, okay, let's make a choice. That's what we're doing. Go.
You too. I can't believe you were able to defeat me again.
This time it was not me, Giovanni. It was the boy.
Don't do this. We can be partners. Together we can rule the world. It will all be... Ah!
So what was it like for the team when you guys actually finished this crazy sprint and got it on stage?
There's always a weird thing because you kind of, the point I always describe it as the point that the cast actually starts to have fun is the point that I leave. Suddenly they can start to relax and have and party with it, and my job's done and I'm out of there. There's always a sort of postpartum thing. What's really cool now though is I'll run into I'll see Andrew at some event or opening or Dominic or some of the other people who are involved, and it's always that, oh dude, remember that? Remember what we did? It sort of created a special bond.
Just because it was so,
or at least point of reference.
Because it was such an absurd project.
Because it's sort of like yes, it was absurd, and it was just. Can you believe we did that?
I want to send out a special thanks to Chris Mitchell, who is the production manager in Pokemon Live, for uploading the entire musical to YouTube. That's been very, very helpful. Leo Vader, who cut together some of the footage of that musical. He's a former Game Informer video intern. And I want to thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. If you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe. We're on iTunes, Google Play, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Game Informer. We're going to be doing more of these special editions in the future, but we have a regular show that airs every Thursday that features Game Informer editors talking about the biggest games around. So thank you so much for watching or listening, and please tell a friend.
Radio City Entertainment for Kids Entertainment and Nintendo, thank you for attending this performance of Pokémon Live, presented by eKidsInternet.com. We hope you enjoyed the show. If so, please tell your friends and family. We have one more show here tomorrow at 1 o'clock.